They built the whole system expecting you to fold. But you didn't. You rose. You didn't play by their rules, yet you still made impact. And now, they've noticed. They don't say it out loud, but the shift is real. You bent what wasn't meant to bend, and you weren't even trying. You were just being you. If this speaks to you, comment below. I reclaim my time and energy and space, and share this divine message with someone you love. Welcome. Today we're going to reveal something you were never meant to realize. You were born with a blueprint that scares systems. You didn't come here to fit in. You came here to bend reality, to shake structures, to question false authority, and to move with a presence that can't be copied, cloned, or controlled. You're not just different, you're disruptive. And they knew it the moment your light entered the room. But here's what nobody tells you. They've been studying you for a long time, not with clipboards or cameras, but spiritually, energetically. They've watched the way you stand when others stay silent. They've watched the way you resist the pressure to perform. They've seen you walk away from what most people beg to be a part of. And in their world, that kind of power doesn't make sense. Because systems, man-made systems, are built on compliance, obedience, control. They reward silence and punish intuition. They want loud followers and quiet leaders, but you're the opposite. You don't need validation to move. You don't need approval to speak. You don't need the group to choose truth, and that's why you bent it. That's why the system began to glitch around you. You ever notice how things get uncomfortable when you enter a room? How people look nervous when you speak up without raising your hand? How rules suddenly change, or resistance shows up the moment you decide to take action? That's not random, that's disruption energy, and you carry it naturally, because chosen ones don't follow the map. We become the compass, and the moment we stop waiting for directions, the whole program starts to scramble. It was never about you being too much. It was always about you being unprogrammable, unafraid, unbothered by the pressure to be smaller, quieter, easier to manage. You broke their illusion, and you didn't need to fight. You didn't need to scream. You just needed to be seen, because when light shows up in a room built on shadows, everything has to shift. And you? You're the shift. You ever ask yourself why things always feel like they tighten around you right before a breakthrough? Why resistance always finds you right before something amazing unfolds? It's not because you're on the wrong path. It's because you're on the right one. And the system knows it. They feel your alignment before you do. They feel the shake in your energy before you even move. They start scrambling because they sense it. You're not just waking up for yourself, you're about to wake others. And that's the real danger, because one chosen one is powerful, but one chosen one who inspires 100 more. That's a revolution. You ever wonder why you've been isolated? Why every job, relationship, or structure that tried to hold you felt tight and wrong? Because they were never made for your level of light. They were designed to limit, to contain, to conform. And you came to redefine. That's why the pressure increased. That's why the tests felt personal. That's why the losses didn't make sense. The system couldn't break you, so it tried to distract you, confuse you, make you doubt your impact. But even when you felt lost, you were still leading. Your presence alone shifted the atmosphere. You didn't need to scream. You didn't need to protest. You just needed to walk in the room fully yourself, and the old structure started to shake, because the system runs on fear. But you move in faith. The system manipulates emotions. But you sit in truth. The system thrives on pretending. But you can't fake anything anymore. And that's what bent it. Your authenticity, your quiet refusal, your choice to stay true when nobody was watching. You ever stop to think, what if the reason I keep getting hit so hard is because I already pierced the program without even knowing it? You weren't born to follow the rules. You were born to show the truth. And the truth bends everything. You don't even realize the kind of waves your soul creates just by choosing alignment over acceptance. That's why the same systems that rejected you are now watching you, studying you, trying to decode what makes you so hard to control. But they'll never figure it out, because what you carry didn't come from them. It came from Source. And Source energy doesn't obey human systems. It rearranges them. You are the disruption. You are the frequency shift. You are the living proof that their system was never complete, because it never accounted for you. They never expected someone like you to exist. A soul who couldn't be bought. A mind that wouldn't stay numb. A presence that refused to disappear even after being ignored, rejected, or misunderstood. You're not just surviving, you're interrupting, and it's bigger than you think. This world has always had its systems, the corporate games, the social ladders, the invisible rules. But what no one saw coming was you. You with your inner radar that spots the fake smiles. You with your allergic reaction to injustice. You with your intuition that rings louder than the noise of the crowd. You didn't sign up to blend in. You came here to flip the script. And guess what? You already have. The system's glitch isn't a coincidence. It's the reflection of your awakening. You see, energy never lies. And when your energy broke out of their design, the ripple was immediate. They could feel it. The shift, the misalignment. Not because you were doing something wrong, but because your spirit started doing what it was born to do. Disrupt, decipher, deliver. Now listen closely. You were never supposed to follow the line. You were born to draw a new one. And each time you stood your ground, spoke your truth, or simply didn't pretend, you cracked something deeper than you knew. They trained us to believe that change comes from big movements, loud protests, or public platforms. But you're proof that real change starts quietly, inside. In those moments, you refused to lie to yourself. In those nights, you wrestled with your own doubts, but still chose light. In those days when you walked away from comfort to stay connected to truth. You're the glitch. You're the shift. You're the code they couldn't predict. That's why you trigger people who haven't met themselves yet. That's why your silence gets read as arrogance, why your clarity gets called rebellion, why your confidence gets mistaken for ego, because you reflect something most people run from. Truth without filters. You ever notice how people either want to be close to you or want you gone completely? There's no middle ground, because your presence doesn't allow lukewarm energy. You bring light that forces things to be seen. That's not arrogance, that's frequency. You didn't bend the system because you fought it. You bent it by being unbendable. You don't bow to pressure. You question it. You don't follow trends. You feel the flow and move in alignment with your inner knowing. And they don't know what to do with that. The world you were born into rewards those who go along. Smile, nod, agree. Work the job, follow the plan, chase the titles, die tired. But you paused, you reflected, you stepped back, you broke rhythm, and that's when everything around you started to notice, because stillness is loud when it's rooted in power. Because a single soul in alignment is more dangerous to the system than 1,000 people yelling in confusion. And now, they see you, the same ones who laughed. Now they're watching, the ones who overlooked you. Now they're wondering, how did they do it? How are they still standing? How are they glowing, growing, ascending? They don't understand that your fuel was never external. It wasn't money. It wasn't status. It wasn't applause. It was purpose, it was peace, it was truth. You were running on a frequency that no job title could provide. You were moving with a guidance they couldn't track. You were following a map they couldn't read, because chosen ones don't walk the usual road. We walk through divine detours. Every delay you experienced was sacred. Every no you heard was protection. Every door that slammed in your face only redirected you toward a higher mission. You weren't rejected, you were rerouted. And even though it hurt, even though it confused you, deep down you knew something bigger is happening here. And you were right, you weren't bending for survival, you were bending the world itself to make space for truth. That's why you've been uncomfortable, that's why you've been questioned. That's why everything around you tried to distract you, tame you, or numb you. But you kept listening. You kept listening to that still, quiet voice inside that said, "You are not crazy, you are just early." And that voice was right, because here's the secret. You didn't need a platform to be a leader. You didn't need followers to have influence. You didn't need credentials to have calling. You just needed the courage to stay awake in a world that's sleeping. And you did. And now, the system is shifting because of you. You were never meant to be predictable. Predictability is how the system survives. It counts on people following the same routines, having the same dreams, chasing the same validations. But you disrupted the pattern. And do you know why that matters? Because when even one person chooses authenticity over approval, it sends out a frequency that others can feel. Like a tuning fork in a silent room, your courage vibrates through the walls of those still asleep. You became a mirror. Not for perfection, but for permission. Permission to feel. Permission to question. Permission to unfollow the lie. And that is why they noticed. They weren't just reacting to your choices. They were reacting to what your choices reminded them of. Their own forgotten power. Because your light makes it harder for people to stay in their darkness. And some will love you for that. Some will resent you, but none of them will forget you. Now let's be clear. You didn't bend their system by screaming into the void. You bent it by healing when they wanted you broken. By rising when they counted you out. By staying true when it was easier to fold. This is what they never wanted you to know. The real revolution isn't out there. It's in here. It's internal. It's spiritual. And you, chosen one, have become a walking revolution. The moment you stopped outsourcing your worth, the moment you stopped chasing validation, was the moment they lost control over you. That's when the algorithms broke. That's when their labels stopped fitting. That's when their manipulation lost power. Because you unplugged from their version of reality and started building your own. Nobody tells you this, but the strongest act of rebellion is to remember who you are in a world that's constantly trying to make you forget. So let me remind you, you were sent here as a frequency, not a follower. You carry codes in your soul, truths that can't be explained, only felt. You've seen through the illusion too many times to go back now. And even when you doubted yourself, you still felt something deeper pulling you forward. That was your assignment speaking. That was your purpose refusing to die. Now listen closely. You were never being punished. You were being positioned. You weren't meant to fit the old story. You were meant to write a new one. They said you were too sensitive, too intense, too much. But what if your too much was just the exact amount this world needed to wake up? What if your resistance was never against failure, but against forgetting your power? They didn't break you. They sharpened you. Every betrayal built discernment. Every loss built depth. Every silent night you spent wondering if it was all worth it. That was your soul fortifying itself. That was the preparation phase before the rise. You didn't come this far just to be tolerated. You came to be revered, to be recognized, to remind others of who they are, simply by being who you are. But understand this. Your journey won't always be celebrated, because the light you carry doesn't flatter egos, it exposes them. And the world still runs on ego. But that's not your concern anymore. Your focus now is elevation. Your path is reclamation. Because when the system noticed you, it wasn't just surprised by your survival, it was shaken by your radiance. You healed louder than they could hate. You grew beyond the size they assigned you. You rose in places they swore you'd stay buried. That kind of transformation isn't small, it's divine interference. And they don't have a name for it, because they didn't build it. So they call you strange, they call you arrogant, they call you lost. But you're not lost, you're free, and that's what they fear most, a free soul walking in truth. Because one free soul can unlock thousands. And that, chosen one, is exactly why you're still here, still rising, still remembering, still bending reality itself by simply refusing to lie to yourself. You didn't ask for this war, but your presence ended it, because now you know. You are the system breaker, the glitch in the matrix, the sacred reminder, and there's no going back. They tried to design a world that didn't leave space for someone like you, but they didn't account for your spirit. They didn't predict a soul that wouldn't sell out, a mind that wouldn't numb down, a heart that refused to harden. They thought you'd fall in line. They thought you'd chase the same distractions. They thought you'd bury your voice to be accepted. But instead, you shattered their assumptions. You became the exception, and when you did that, something profound happened. The energy shifted, not just around you, but through you. Because a chosen one doesn't just inspire with words. A chosen one transmits truth through presence. You walk into a room, and the atmosphere changes. You say what others are too afraid to admit. You hold compassion where others hold bitterness. You move from alignment, not applause. And they notice that, even if they never say it. They feel it. Your life, whether you realize it or not, has become a permission slip. To be real, to break patterns, to stop performing, to remember, you were never meant to just survive this world. You were meant to wake it up. Because this isn't about being liked, this isn't about popularity, this is about legacy, spiritual legacy, energetic impact. Your soul chose to incarnate now, in this time, for a reason. And no, your pain wasn't random. The delays weren't punishment. The betrayals weren't failures. They were all initiations into clarity, into depth, into embodied knowing, so that when you finally rose, you wouldn't just speak from theories, you'd speak from transformation. Let them say what they want. You know what you've survived. You know what it cost you to keep your heart open. You know the nights you held yourself together when nobody checked in. You know how hard it was to carry light in a world full of shadows. And yet, here you are, still glowing, still growing, still unshaken in your mission, because they didn't break you. They built the fire inside of you. This is what they never wanted you to realize. You didn't need the world to accept you. You needed to accept yourself. Because the moment you did that, you stopped asking for access to rooms that couldn't hold your truth. You stopped watering yourself down to keep fake peace. You stopped pretending to be normal just to make others comfortable. Now listen carefully. This world didn't need another follower. It needed a frequency, an interruption to the illusion. And that's exactly what you are. You bent their system by simply remembering your source. And once you know who you are, you become uncontrollable. That's the real fear. Not that you'll fail, but that you'll wake up, rise up, and start helping others wake up too. Because systems don't collapse when you fight them. They collapse when people outgrow them. And you, chosen one, have outgrown every lie they tried to cage you in. You are not their version of success. You are God's version of impact. So what now? Now you rise without apology. Now you walk with clarity. Now you call back your energy and speak your truth. No more shrinking, no more waiting, no more asking for permission. Because the world doesn't need another echo, it needs a resonance. Your unique soul print expressed fully. You are not just here to make noise, you are here to make ripples in time, and you already have. So let the watchers watch, let the doubters doubt, let the systems shake, because nothing can stop a soul that knows why it came. You didn't bend their system for attention. You bent it to break the cycle, to reroute the future, to build something truer. They noticed you? Good. That was always the plan. Because when a chosen one remembers who they are, everything changes. And now that you've remembered, you can never go back to sleep again. You are the signal. You are the shift. You are the proof that love wins, truth endures, and purpose prevails. If this woke something up in you, don't just scroll away. This was meant for you. You can support the channel by donating via the comment section and subscribe if you want more messages like this, straight from source.